There is a market-related one, right? We're talking about, is it, what's the brand?
Brown-Forman.
Brown-Forman, sorry, yeah. Right? They're outperforming. It actually was one of my gainers.
Yeah, they're up 10% today.
Yeah. So
you know what Carol didn't have as her gainers today?
You know, he has been giving me such a hard time. I'm like, don't go Romaine.
All you gotta
look
at is what automakers are doing. Since Caroline Levitt confirmed this kind of pause here.
I made it.
General Motors up 7% right now.
Romaine has become a verb.
Ford up 6%. Stellantis more than 9%.
This is only a reprieve for 1 month. You know, things could change in 3.5 weeks again. And
this is why I love
going through this whole rigmarole again.
I heart you, Scarlett.
Well, I don't really know anymore what we're talking about, so I'm going back to the tariff landscape and that being a short-term issue versus the longer-term positive of, say, tax cuts and deregulation, and how that gap will be bridged. This rally doesn't seem like it has a lot of conviction because volume is so light.
It doesn't. I mean, you are seeing some of the big cap tech names lead the market higher, like Microsoft and Amazon, with big drags today coming out of the oil and gas space, as well as with a lot of the financials as well. Exxon, one of your favorites there, Alix, down 2% on the day. Nevertheless, it is green across the screen. It looked like that market rally was in jeopardy earlier in the session here, but there's been pretty meaningful and steady gains into the close for the past 2.5, 3 hours. The Dow up almost 500 points or 1.1%, and S&P up about 64 points or 1.1%. The NASDAQ composite up about 270 points or 1.5%, and the Russell 2000 adding 21 points or 1% even on the day.
All right, checking out the S&P 500, just digging a level deeper. 376 names in the index are actually higher today. Got 126, Scarlett, to the downside.
All right, let's take a look at the IMAP. Pretty solidly green. There are two sectors in the red. Energy off by 1.5% and utilities losing 0.7%. Definitely the smallest slices of the pie. Materials are the big winners of the day, gaining 2.6%. And consumer discretionary, which houses autos and auto component makers, are up by 1.75%. Industrials also gaining more than 1.5% on the day.
All right, guys, let's get to some of the individual gainers. Check this out. Not a name we talk about a lot. Ticker is HII, Huntington Ingalls Industries. It's a top gainer in the S&P 500. You know, what the president says, we know, can move markets or move stocks. And he talked last night about building up the U.S. shipbuilding industry. Well, as I said, a top gainer, biggest move intraday that it's ever seen in terms of trading. It is a U.S. military shipbuilder. And again, we did see the Wall Street Journal coming out specifically saying that the Trump administration is getting ready for an executive order to bolster U.S. shipbuilders and shrink Chinese dominance in the industry. So definitely a name on the move. MicroStrategy up 12%. Folks, Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy goes up. Friday, keep in mind there was a summit of major crypto industry leaders to talk about crypto policy. Fortune noting some comments by U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick that seemed to hint that Bitcoin would have a special status with a U.S. crypto reserve. So that's floating out there. Freeport-McMoRan, copper was a big trade, not just the commodity, but the players in the space. This one finishing near its highs. Freeport up more than 9% in today's session. Remember, we did have that speech last night from President Trump, the idea of a 25% tariff on imports of the metal. This is playing out, so better for the domestic players. Keep in mind the president had previously ordered an investigation into copper levies without proposing a tariff rate. So that's floating out there. And then Alix, Champagne, Brown-Forman, we talked about this. Yeah. It's up 10% here at the close, maker of Jack Daniels, which is apparently lowbrow. I didn't know that, Alix,
they make champagne too.
No,
Corbel.
Okay, look.
It's sparkling wine.
Corbel does not count as anything real. Okay.
You forgot the automakers on there too. They had a great day.
Having its best day since October. Move along.
Did you see Stellantis close?
I did.
The most in 3 years, with the biggest gain in 3 years.
I hate
today?
you both right now.
Yeah, sometimes we just got to gang up on you. Hey, CrowdStrike today down 6.3%. They fell after the company issued a worse than expected earnings outlook. This company is still recovering from what happened over the summer, that software update that crashed millions of computers globally last year. Despite disappointing projections, CrowdStrike topped estimates for a couple subscription revenue benchmarks. These are key benchmarks in the fourth quarter. Annual recurring revenue totaling $4.24 billion. I never like talking about energy when Alix is around because she's like knows everything about energy, but I got to talk about the energy companies today. ExxonMobil down 2%. Energy names as a whole tumbling today. Tariff uncertainty in Canada and Mexico. OPEC Plus's plans to revive halted production sent crude prices lower. That weighed on shares of the biggest oil and gas names. But Alix, what else do we need to know?
No, you can all be smart.
Today?
You can all be smart on energy. But I will tell you, the JP Morgan had a report out earlier today that said that if you have a 100 basis point hit to GDP in the U.S., that could equate to a demand growth hit of 180,000 barrels of oil a day, 70,000 barrels of oil a day in China. So it could wind up being material. Plus, you had a stockpile build in the U.S. today as well. So that's never a good mix.
You are our Renaissance woman. Champagne and oil and energy. Love it, love it.
Okay, no good segue, but Abercrombie and Fitch shares worth checking out today. They were down double digits, ended up closing down 9.2% today. They hit their lowest level at the close since December of 2023. The company did report weaker than expected fourth quarter sales. For the Abercrombie brand gross margin that trailed Wall Street estimates, Abercrombie did say that tariffs enacted last month were taken into account in its guidance for operating margin.
All right, I'm going to the bond market, guys. It was a pretty much sell the back end of the curve story, but the narrative that seems to be evolving is buy the front end potentially on Fed cuts that now will take place this year and sell the back end because of growth worries. That's what everyone keeps writing about. But today, as we see as it ended, all across the curve, a little bit of a sell-off. Back end yields up by about 3 basis points.
I think what's interesting, can I just throw this out here? I'm just kind of blown away. We haven't talked a lot about it. Maybe you guys did, but what happened in Germany overnight?
Yes.
That incredible spend, that market up 3.4%. The DAX, it's up now, I think something like 16% for the year, just looking at numbers. We just talked with Aaron Kennan of Clear Harbor, and he said there is a little bit of a liquidity shift going on if you look at the outperformance in Europe and elsewhere. So just something to throw out there.
All right, we are getting some earnings crossing the wire, including from Zscaler, the cybersecurity software company, reporting earnings for the most recent quarter. Adjusted EPS coming in at 78 cents a share. That's a beat. The street was looking for 69. Revenue at $647.9 million. That's also a beat on that front. The company saying that for the third quarter, it does see revenue in the range of $665 to $667 million. That's right around what the street was looking for on average. And the company for the full year calculating billings at $3.15 billion to $3.17 billion, also relatively in line with estimates.
All right, let's go to Grindr now. That company also reporting earnings. It has launched a buyback program.
Are these sandwiches? What do they make?
No, not sandwiches.
Oh.
Nice try.
A different kind of company.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah, dating app. Grindr has
A different kind of sandwich.
Yes, that's right.
Wow.
No.
It's a family show here.
Should I go back to the earnings?
Yep, go.
Let's go back to the earnings. All right.
Yes.
It has approved its first share buyback program of up to $500 million. So that is probably helping limit the losses in the stock right now in after hours trading. It sees 2025 adjusted EBITDA margin above 41%. Analysts were looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of 42.3%, and it sees 2025 revenue of at least 24%. Again, that buyback program probably helping to lift the stock right now.
All right, I'm taking a look at Marvell Technology, guys. That stock is out. In terms of the fourth quarter, they did beat on earnings. They also beat on net revenue for the fourth quarter. Looking at the adjusted guidance for the first quarter, though, looking at 56 to 66 cents per share. That estimate was for about 60 cents. However, Marvell Technology is falling by about 9% post-market. I was taking a look at the press release to see if there's anything on AI, and the only thing so far is talking about their AI silicon programs have now entered volume production, and they do see strong growth from their interconnect products.
All right, Alex, got another one that's falling in the aftermarket. MongoDB, it's down more than 5% here, reporting adjusted earnings per share for the fourth quarter that did beat the average analyst estimate. Adjusted EPS of $1.28 versus 86 cents year over year. The estimate was 66 cents. That seems like quite outperformance, but we'll look for some more color on that. Revenue, $548.4 million. That's up 20% year over year. The estimate was $518.6 million, so that too is a beat. The company also talking about service revenue of $17.4 million, subscription revenue of $531 million, but I'm looking at this one down more than 7% in the after. Some commentary. Our full year guidance assumes non-Atlas revenue, so talking about particular products, will decline high single digits in percentage terms on a year-over-year basis. So we'll look for more on the analyst call there.
All right, I'm looking at shares of LendingTree. They're higher in the after hours by about 7%. The company's small cap. We do see 2025 revenue coming in at $985 million to $1.03 billion. Estimates are for $1.02 billion. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS coming in above estimates at $1.16. Romaine.
I just want to mention Sleep Number, obviously a tiny company. This is, of course, the mattress company that's down like 90% from its all-time high back in 2021. The company reporting earnings announced 12% drop in sales in the quarter, but also saying that it has found a new CEO, saying that Linda Findley will take over as CEO on April 7th here as this company really tries to turn things around. A loss per share widening in the most recent quarter as well, 21 cents a share in the most recent quarter.
Yep, Sleep Number right now down about 9.6% here in the aftermarket. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. Alix heading out for some champagne, perhaps. But Scarlet and Romaine, of course, continuing there on television. Tim and I continuing right here on Bloomberg Business Week.